Hi guys, I'm Libertman, forced to be alone but free to decide how to live it. Welcome to another live stream in the channel and another week. This is the second week of the live stream. By now I'm mostly testing the how to do live stream, so I've had already my first week of practice. I think it was good, with the exception of the last Friday that I've got some technical issues, but so I had to start later than expected. But anyways, whoever is watching in the future, the replay of the and the recording of this live stream, welcome. And today is 15th of December 2025. So I was planning to make this series of scientific papers review anyway, so I thought it was a good idea, as it is an initial stage of the channel where by now we are only 10 subscribers. I don't know how they got to discover the channel, but so at least to talk about for a bunch of them, in case any of them catch this live stream. Otherwise, they will remain as a recorded video in the channel for future watchers. Okay, today I'm addressing a question that many men ask silently, often with confusion or shame. That is, why do I feel emotionally unsupported even when I'm not completely alone? So this live stream is not about blaming women. It's not about saying men have it worse. And it's not about culture wars. This is about something more subtle and more damaging. That is that invisible male emotional is about the invisible male emotional neglect. The kind that doesn't look dramatic from the outside, but quietly erodes men's emotional lives from the inside. So to understand this, I'm going to base the entire live stream on a peer review study from 2023. That is whose topic and findings will help us get more information to understand the situation. So you can, as always, you can find the link to the study in the description. Let me check the title now because I'm today we are reading the study is from Shin and Park and is titled Gender Differences in Social Networks and Physical and Mental Health. Are social relationships more health protective in women than in men? So I'm going to start reading some extracts and commenting, right? Okay. So I start reading. Women generally reported larger and more diverse social networks than men, including higher levels of emotional closeness and frequency of contact with network members. So this is the first key finding of the study. Men are not necessarily more alone, but their social networks tend to be smaller, less emotionally expressive, less diversified, and more activity-based than emotion-based. So in simple terms, a man might have co-workers, might have gym acquaintances, gaming friends, or family members he sees regularly, but very few people with whom emotional vulnerability is normalized. This already sets the stage for what it can be called invisible neglect. Not because nobody exists, but because support is structurally thin or small. I keep on reading. Social relationships were more strongly associated with mental health outcomes in women than in men, suggesting that women derive greater psychological benefit from social connections. So this is crucial. It doesn't mean that men don't need support. It means that the same social contact doesn't translate into same emotional benefit. And why is this like this? Because emotional benefit depend on emotional disclosure, on validation, on responsiveness, on safety. So here comes an uncomfortable part. Men are socialized not to use relationship for emotional regulation. So even when support could be available, men often don't experience it as support. So I will go on reading another extract on why men don't experience support even when it exists. And it says, men were less likely to mobilize social ties for emotional support even when such ties were present. This sentence explains invisible male emotional neglect better than any other slogan. The neglect is often not intentional. It's that it emerges from an interaction between social expectation, gender norms, emotional habits, and relational roles. Men are often valued. Men often are valued for usefulness. They are respected for competence, or including for performance, but not invited into emotional dependency. So men learn early not to bring emotions to relationships. And over time, this creates a paradox. Men have people around, but no place to land emotionally. No safe place where to share openly, as also they are required to or asked to by women. I keep on reading. Gender norms may shape how social relationships function as protective factors, particularly by influencing emotional expression and help-seeking behaviors. So this is the heart of the issue. Men are often taught explicitly or implicitly that the emotional need means weakness, that asking for support is a burden, and that vulnerability ends up being a loss of status for men. So what happens? Men adapt by minimizing emotional expression. Also adapt by intellectualizing distress, converting pain into silence, and withdrawing rather than asking. From the outside, it looks like the man is fine and he's independent, but from the inside, it feels like there's nowhere to go with this. So that's emotional neglect without abandonment. So why this neglect is invisible? Invisible male emotional neglect has four key features. One, it is that there's no obvious rejection. Nobody says, I don't care. Another feature would be the functional appearance. The man still works, still performs, and survives, and it's not noticeable in society, in daily life. Another feature is the self-silencing. The man himself downplays his needs. Also, another feature is the misinterpretation by others. Silence is mistaken for strength. So this is why men often hear, but you never said anything. We thought you were okay. You always seemed strong. And this aligns perfectly with the study's findings. When it comes to men don't mobilize emotional support, not because they don't need it, but because the cost feels too high. So let's try to figure out some internal consequences for men. When emotional neglect becomes chronic, men often experience emotional flattening, a difficulty naming feelings, also known as anhedonia, a sense of being unseen, a quiet resentment, social withdrawal, and existential loneliness. So, this is not dramatic or explosive, but makes men feel empty. And because there's no obvious crisis, so no one intervenes. This is why so many men reach midlife saying, I don't feel supported, but I don't even know what support would look like. So it's important to figure out why this is not men's fault. So we have to make some clarification. The study does not frame this as individual failure. It shows a systematic pattern that includes social networks structured differently, emotional norms apply asymmetrically, relational expectations shaped by gender. Men didn't choose this in a vacuum. They adapted to what was rewarded in different times of their lives. So what actually actual support would look like for men? Based on the study's implications, emotional support for men works best when it is non-intrusive, when it is not framed as therapy, when it is activity adjacent, when it allows gradual disclosure, when it preserves dignity and autonomy. Men don't need constant emotional processing. They need permission, space, safety, reciprocity. So let's explore how men can begin to reverse invisible neglect, to start a possible change path. So this is not about opening up to everyone from now on and becoming someone that you are not. It's about a strategic emotional honesty. So which would be the steps? Well, first, identify one low-risk person, share some experience, and without falling immediately into raw emotions and oversharing, then observe his response. According to his response, adjust your boundaries and go on building slowly in this, following these same patterns. So support is not demanded. It is constantly tested and earned. So by now, up to this point of the study, we have been seeing that men don't, if you are catching the live stream right now, we've been talking about that men don't feel supported not because nobody exists, but because the emotional rules were written without them in mind. This live stream wasn't about blame. It was about getting clarity about this topic, and clarity is the first form of support. So by now, if you resonated with the content of this live stream, please give a like to the video, the live stream, leave a comment in the comment section, and please subscribe to the channel to support this content. So it's important to know that by needing support, you are not broken, and you were trained to carry weight silently as a man. So now let's jump into another related topic to go deeper. That is when support exists but cannot be used. So I will read another part of the conclusions of the finding of the study that says, men's social relationships were not likely to be characterized by instrumental exchanges rather than emotional exchanges. This explains a common male experience. That is when we say, I have people, but I still feel unsupported. When it says instrumental exchange, that means advice, favors, logistics, or problem solving. What's missing is emotional containment, validation, and co-regulation with other people. Men are often supported as functions, not as emotional beings. This is not cruelty, it's social conditioning regarding men. I keep on reading. Men may internalize expectations of emotional self-reliance, which can limit their utilization of available support. Over time, men don't just lack support, but they stop accessing it because they learn not to ask, not to signal any need, not to lean on any other person. So emotional neglect becomes invisible, even to the man himself. And why men often cannot name what they are missing. Men often say, I don't know what I need, talking doesn't help, something feels off. So this isn't emotional ignorance, it's emotional undertraining. If support has never been emotionally available, it's hard to imagine what it should feel like. So, unfortunately, also there are some long-term consequences of this invisible neglect when it becomes chronic. When chronic emotional neglect consolidates in men, often leads to emotional flattening, to social withdrawal, quiet resentment, identity built around self-sufficiency, influenced by stoicism, like many content today, loss of relational trust. And in this way, why just open up, bro, doesn't work for most men. Telling men to open up often backfires because vulnerability without safety feels dangerous, and disclosure without reciprocity feels kind of humiliating. And forced emotionality threatens that masculine identity, or learned masculine identity. So the problem is not expression, it's the context in which we are living. That doesn't make the process easier or as smooth as we would need as men. So now let's analyze how this plays out across the C4PC macro groups to see the difference according to personality types. The same emotional neglect manifests differently depending on personality structures. In the case of the internal rationals, neglect becomes detachment. The emotions are intellectualized, and they risk that their identity get fused with isolation. And support works best when it is indirect and calm and idea-based. To have conversation around ideas and not to that forcing the internal rational to open up emotionally right away in a conversation. For the internal emotionals, the neglect becomes a silent sadness. They have a deep need for understanding, and their emotions are rarely expressed. So they risk emotional exhaustion and falling into a self-blame trap. And support works best with one-to-one conversation, meetings, or a slow conversation that are validating for them. For the external rationals, neglect becomes burnout. Their worth is tied always to performance, to how much they do and how efficient they are. So they risk falling into a shutdown mode when usefulness fades over time or in a situation. And support works best as alliance by showing them respect and with shared responsibility. And in the case of the external emotionals, neglect becomes emotional hunger. So they tend to fall into overgiving followed by withdrawal. So they risk falling into dependency cycles with people in general. And support works best through consistent and reciprocal connections, which is clearly not easy to find for anyone. So why generic advice always fails? It fails because be independent, bro, isolate some men. Telling men to open up overwhelms others. Focus on your purpose, ignores emotional pain. Or the other one, just socialize more, misses the whole point of this. So support must match personality structure. That is the core value of the C4PC model, for you to start exploring further about your own personality, understand yourself better, and understand which are the best solutions for your way of being and functioning. So support doesn't mean being rescued. For men, healthy support is dignified, reciprocal, contextual, and gradual, not like sending a message, save me, to Superman like women. But it's a message that says, walk with me in this moment. So men don't feel supported because the emotional rules they learned were incomplete. This is not weakness, it's an adaptation. Once invisible neglect is named, it can be redesigned. And once support is structured correctly, men don't disappear, they re-emerge. So I hope this live stream has been helpful. If you enjoy this content, please like the video, leave your comment in the comment section, and subscribe to the channel. Much courage, take care, and see you in the next one.